Greetings. The Adrian Dominican Sisters welcome you to a presentation of a sister story. I am Sister Peg O'Flynn, and today I'm having a conversation with our Sister Judy Byron, who is presently residing and in ministry in Seattle, Washington. So sit back and enjoy this conversation. So the first question is today, how's the weather? You're very hot up there.
Well, Sunday and Monday, it was, pretty unbearable. We don't have air conditioning in our office or at the convent. So, but then it cooled down on Tuesday, and now it's overcast every morning and in the 60s. So I'm never going to complain about the cooler rain again. It was pretty.
Yeah. Well, we've been praying for all you people on that, up in that area. So thank you for your willingness to share your story with us. So Judy, what we'd like to begin with is where you began with your beginnings, where you were born, family dynamics, brothers, sisters, whatever you want to share with us, because that's an important and significant part of who we are, is our upbringing. Okay, so that's yours, and then you can just go on from there. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peg. I've had a very blessed life, and it really began with my parents, Mary Carnino Byron and Bob Byron. My mother's family, her parents came from Italy, so she's a first generation American, and I was born in Everett, Washington, the first child of what came to be 8. So we were a big family. My father was in the logging industry, and my mother was a stay-at-home mom with 8 kids. We lived in a small town in near Everett, Washington, when I was born. And later, when I was 6, we moved to Hoquiam, Washington, which is down on the coast. And that's where I went to school and met the Dominicans at Our Lady of Good Help School. It was a double grade school. And I went on from there to Holy Angels High School, which was a boarding school in Seattle where the Dominican Sisters were too. And then I went from there to the convent. So
your beginning was a little different too with the Dominicans. Can we just go back to where did you come in your family? I mean, with 8 siblings.
I was going to go back to my family now.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Do what you were going to do.
So, and then from there I entered. But to go back to my family, I'm the oldest.
Okay.
I had a brother who was 15 months younger, and he died when he was 9 and I was 10.
Oh.
He had leukemia, and he, after the diagnosis, lived about 6 weeks. In those days, they didn't really have much that they could do for it. And then 2 sisters, Diane and Chris, came after that, and then 2 brothers, Bob and Pat. And then when I was 22 and in the convent, my mother had twins.
Oh my.
So Jacqueline and Kathleen, and they're the youngest in the family. And as I started with, my family is a blessing in my life. We're a very close family. We get along really well. We get together a lot. Most of them are in Washington State, except I have in Salt Lake. I have 9 nieces and nephews and 14 grandnieces and nephews.
Wow.
And my father, as I said, he was in the logging business, and that's a timber area down there in the Olympic Forest. My father died of a heart attack when he was 59.
Yeah.
And at the time, it seemed old to me. But as I've gotten older, I realized how young it was.
Yes,
and my twin sisters were really a blessing, for my mother, because they were 12 at the time and really, were a good source of support for her through the years. And then my mother lived to 95. So I always tell the people that I have my mother's Italian genes, and I have an uncle, Barney, who just turned 100 in March and still is totally with it and, has a few health issues. But
well, that's great. You're going to be around for a long time.
Oh, I'm going to be around for a long time. So school, I enjoyed school, grade school and high school. I entered the convent in 1960 and really expected that every day, I would get up at 5:15, which I really didn't like, and, go across the street and teach school and come home and have recreation and go to bed. Let's see, I think I need to stop a minute because I probably need to go back and say how we were educated before I say what I thought.
Okay.
Okay. So I entered in 1960 and our community was part of sister formation. So I was privileged really to go to the College of Sister Formation, which the Sisters of Providence had started. And it was a collaboration of the communities in the Northwest. And really, it was just a wonderful way to be formed in religious life because right from the beginning, we were about collaboration. We really worked, the communities out here really worked with
right. Mm-hmm.
And also, I hate to tell people, but we had 6 years of formation. We had 3 years at Rosary Heights, our mother house. And then we went to the College of Sister Formation for 3 years. So that was quite a luxury in religious life at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So after I graduated, I went to teach 6th grade at St. Luke's School. And as at that time, it was 1966. And when I entered, I thought that, every day I would get up and do what I was doing. I would get up at 5:15, pray, go across the street, teach school, come home, have recreation, prepare for the next day, and it would continue. And then we had the renewal of Vatican II, and religious life really changed. I taught for 3 years at St. Luke's, and then I went down to Hoquiam and taught for 2 years, which was really nice because my family lived next door to the church.
Oh, nice.
And then a Holy Name sister called me after 5 years and said that they had talked a priest at St. Luke's and another parish into hiring a full-time religious ed director, and 2 Holy Name sisters would come on staff and train all the catechists and would I do it? And, I had been trained to be a teacher, but I said yes. And so I did religious education for a number of years then in parishes. And then I went back to the classroom, and I had always wanted to be a principal. So I worked as a principal for.
Why did you want to be a principal?
I had, for the most part, I'd had good principals, and I really believed in Catholic education and thought the principal, could play a vital role. So I had, again, excellent experiences. Some of the staff I had, we still get together.
That's nice.
Yes. And then from there, I was called to leadership in 1990. I was elected to be the coordinator of ministry, and the prioress was Barb Madison.
Oh, okay.
A wonderful woman.
Right.
And
she was our first resident at Weber, right? Wonderful woman, yeah.
When these days when things are happening and we have to be risky, I always think of Barb because she was a risk taker really for the mission. And we did things that probably if I had to make the decision, we never would have done it because she was willing to do that. So then after 4 years, I was elected prioress, and I served for 4 years.
Of the Edmonds Dominicans.
Edmonds Dominicans, yes. And it was during those years when I was in leadership that the local leadership conference of women religious here came together to say, what can our communities do together that we aren't doing alone? And we decided that we would do systemic change. So that's why we started the Intercommunity Peace and Justice Center,
at IPT.
which is Yes, it's a collaboration now of 7 sponsoring communities and 17 affiliate communities. And when it started, we were 5 sponsoring communities. And that was 1991 that we started that ministry. So it's 30 years now.
Can you explain the purpose of that ministry to those that aren't familiar with it?
Sure. Our purpose really is we say to act for justice in the church and the world. So what we attempt to do is change systems so that they work for people, whether you're talking about the healthcare system, the education system, immigration system, whatever, when you think of all the justice issues. And we also said the other thing we wanted to do, we were seeing an increasing number of homeless families. When I was growing up and I was at the boarding school, I would see men come to the back door for a meal, but he never saw a family. But by 1990, we were really seeing families who were homeless. So we decided that we would develop affordable housing for families with children. And in 1992, we founded Mercy Housing Northwest, which does just that, develops affordable housing for families with services. And we define families now as whatever a family is. It could be a senior with grandchildren. Again, that ministry is now almost 30 years old. And just recently, the Adrian Dominican Sisters made an investment in Mercy Housing Northwest in the education of the children, a $1.5 million investment, which is just, it was a big dream. When we started, our dream was that if we could give children a stable home, they would have a different life. And this is really a dream come true, the emphasis on the education of the children. Wonderful. So going back to the Intercommunity Peace and Justice Center, when I left leadership, I came on staff here, and I've been here, it'll be 18 years in September. And one of the main things I've done is coordinate the Northwest Coalition for Responsible Investment. And what that is, our communities work with corporations on their policies and practices, to make a more just world. Also, it's really bringing our systemic change mission to the boardrooms of corporations. And, that's a whole story in itself. So that's where I am today. And today is a big day for me, July 1st, because after 55 years in ministry, never with a sabbatical, I'm going to begin working part-time. I'm going to work 15 hours a week, and I'm going to continue with the Northwest Coalition for Responsible Investment, and also some special projects for IPJC. But that's what's happening, and I have great plans for the future. I'm very healthy, and I'm happy, and I have a lot of energy and still passion for justice and life. And there's some things I want to do. Like I've always been on the board of Mercy Housing Northwest, but I've never been able to volunteer at any of the properties. And that's, one thing I want to do is have some time to volunteer, and then also have a little more time to contribute to the community. I live at Assumption Convent with 4 of our sisters, and, have more time to be present there and do things.
Your whole thirst for peace and justice, how was that grounded in you when you were growing up? I mean, was that something that you was mentored to you through your parents, through your family, through your education?
Well, I would say, through my family, my mother had a big heart for everyone, and so did my dad, and would help anyone. And I think that, it was just part of our family and part of who we were. And then in high school, I would say it was the sisters. I had one of our sisters in high school that I don't know if you remember, Tom Dooley, but he was a doctor.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
And she had us collect medicine, for in those days you could do it for him and ship it to him. And, so things like that just really made me aware of, the world, and that everyone didn't really, have all the blessings that I did. And then when I began teaching from the very beginning, when I, taught the kids and taught religion, we always, were looking at the issues of our day. For example, when we did the Stations of the Cross one year, we really looked at homelessness and, all the different issues that were going on, and kids. I mean, they really, they understand and they want to do something. So from the very beginning, I was very interested in justice. And then, when I was principal, the same thing. We, did a lot of times it was service projects. And then also, when I was in leadership, I volunteered at the time at a school where homeless kids were already coming to school in the 1950s. So, yeah.
Very, very giving from the very beginning. And you got that from your parents, I'm sure. It started there, and your siblings. So how does your family feel about all the ministries that you've been involved in? Do you have time, or have you taken time to stay connected?
Oh, yes. Our family, really, we get together quite often. They've been very supportive, but they've kept asking me, when are you going to retire? Because to them have been able to retire at 60 or so.
55, right.
Yeah. So, oh, yes, but they've been very supportive. And my family, is the same way. They're very involved in helping people. And
so you've had some very significant mentors or people that have inspired you as you have inspired others. And so you're giving back. You spent all your years just giving back. Is there someone in particular? I know you mentioned Barb Madison. Is there someone else besides your parents and your siblings that you recall as having an effect on your life?
I would say that some of our leaders, Edwina Sweeney, who was, prior, after the renewal, was a person that, she really, you always knew where you stood, but she was very caring and, a good listener, and also challenged you. And then Kathleen Logan, that led us through the renewal. I really, learned a lot about leadership, just from watching her. So one of those people within the community, and then, inspired by, people that I work with in the corporate responsibility work, just some of our, my colleagues, and one is Margie Weber, that I don't know. You remember Margie? I think.
Yes.
Worked for the portfolio advisory board, Adrian Dominican Sisters, and she's working for the Bazillion Fathers now, but she's still doing this work. So, just a lot of people that
have been there for you. Yeah. Now, life hasn't been, just wonderful all the time. Hopefully you've had some challenges. So from a wise woman, how have you dealt with a challenge perhaps that you've had?
Well, one thing I've there's some benefits of getting older.
Mm-hmm.
One is that, you see you see life, and you see that things that seem like the end of the world really weren't, and things worked out. And so, for me, especially, as I've moved on in years, that's helped me deal with. I haven't, I've had challenges. I had a principal, one time that was a challenge, and, but it seemed to be able to work out. I'm pretty even tempered. I can, get upset at times, but it just, and I think I learned from things. One thing that's been a very difficult situation in my life is that my niece who was 17 had migraines since she was, a young child, took her life at age 17, and was very devastating to our family.
Oh, yes.
And, that was something that, you just had to live each day. And, over the years, now it was 99. So, I mean, how many years is that? 21 years, I guess. We've, my family, her parents have really been able to really make her life make a difference. Her father's a family doctor, and, he did everything to try to,
Help
cure
with
her
it.
migraines. And at the time there wasn't much. And so he really has dedicated his practices to patients with migraines now. And there's so many new things happening, and he's been able to help so many people. So, she's really been an inspiration. So something that was very tragic. I mean, we still miss her, but
Definitely, yes.
and again, it was my family, because we pulled together and were able to get one another through it. So I see that that's another thing that, with people that I try to encourage really is family, because it's just so important in people's lives, and it's about the only way you can get through something. So I have had some hard things in my life.
Yes, I know you have. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that. Where do you think the Spirit is leading you at this time? You did share with us how you're letting go of some things and moving forward. And how is the Spirit part of that?
The Spirit, well, I really think that, I can't plan the future, because I think I need to live into the future, whatever it will be, that I can't determine it. So I think that, I see the Spirit a lot now in all that religious communities are going through.
Right.
I see the Spirit in the critical issues we're facing in our country. And also, I'm very excited about, the new theology and where the Spirit is there. The Spirit has a hard job to move us, but I really see that, there are little cracks, and that we can move from a medieval church to
right.
a church that and a religion and a God that is really who God is and who God calls us to be. So
and is not static at this time. And I think the call that we have right now too are the readings that we're doing in preparation for chapter, and how it's stretching a lot of us.
Yeah.
And it's just to talk about the work of the Spirit. I think that whole thing has been wonderful.
I think we dipped our toes into the new cosmology and everything back in the early 2000s, but we're moving even now beyond that, and we need to go back and update our theology, really.
Right. That's how you spend some of that free time that you have. I don't think you ever have free time. Is there something about yourself that you haven't shared that we'd be surprised about?
I don't think so. I'm pretty much, you see what you see is what you get.
What you get. Yeah.
I'm a real jigsaw fanatic. I always have a jigsaw puzzle, and
that's good.
So just spend some time just working that. And I keep telling myself it keeps my brain in good health.
Your brain going. Your brain seems very, very occupied with all the things that you have begun and you're a part of. I mean, you're a living person who not only talks about it, but you live the preaching of justice and peace. By your presence, you have a very calming presence. You've always held that. You're like a mystery. I've always thought of you as a mystery. I met you years ago, but just very special.
One area I'm also very interested in, and I know you're going to have to cut all this, but is the racial equity. And
Okay.
I want more time to read. Like I read Caste, but I really need to read more. And one of the things in my bucket list is really to go down to Montgomery, Alabama, to where the Equal Justice Initiative has started, the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which is really a lynching memorial.
Right. Right.
And then also the Legacy Museum, which really takes us from the period of slavery to mass incarceration. So I also want to do that.
Do it. Do it.
I'm going to.
Soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, one thing in closing. Well, one thing that might surprise people is when I tell people that I'm going to cut back, and, people say, well, you aren't old enough to retire. And I don't think people know how old I actually am.
Yeah.
And recently, when Will, I'm forgetting his name now. He's that columnist. He wrote a column on, he was moving into his 9th decade because he was going to be 80. I thought, my heavens, that's where I'm going to be next year.
Right.
And being in the 9th decade sounds older than, 80. So
right. Right. It does do something. But it's a very freeing experience as we move along that line. I keep saying we're hearing a lot about the 70 and unders. I think we've got to start doing some stuff with the 80 and overs because, we may not be in that thing of remunerative ministry, but we're very involved.
Right.
Very involved. And it's a great freeing time in our lives.
Right.
And it's not just for ourselves, but it's to give away some of our energy that we still have. So is there anything else that you wished I had asked? I know there's a lot more to you in your story than we've heard, but this is the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know if I said it, but I would, Seal Gorman's a good friend of mine, and she's also the coordinator there at our convent. And we always say that we pray to continue to be healthy, holy, and happy. And then
Wonderful.
Just drop dead. But, well, we don't want to do that too soon, but that's the way we want to live. And Seal certainly lives that way too. So
would you tell her that I want her to tell her story? I think I've asked her, and you invite her and see what she says.
I'll tell her I did it. She needs to. Okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I kind of got her a while back. Anyway, well, listen, Judy Byron, thank you very much. I didn't realize that you came from such a large family. I do know about your giving and your all the things that you've been a part of relative to peace and justice, and such an inspiration to so many of us. So in the name of the congregation, I thank you. Keep going at the pace that you can. Be good to yourself. Know when to stop. And I would say, hurry up and go on that trip that you want to go on. It sounds wonderful. I mean, I've seen movies about those places, so maybe I should do some of that too. But anyway, thank you very much. You are an inspiration, and you always have been since I first met you.
Thank you.
As I say, I think it's that gentleness about you, and yet what you're about is so forceful. Anyway, you're a delight. So
all right.
You tell Seal I'm coming after her.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.